from employee to entrepreneur. And so really short and sweet, it was Monday, April 14th, 2008, actually. And I had taken off work from my corporate job where absenteeism was frowned upon. And so I had to, though, because I had to go down to my local courthouse for the official hearing that will make my divorce from a 5-year marriage final. So as I signed on the dotted line and I headed down the hallway and my phone rang. And as I stepped on the elevator and I pushed the button to go down and the doors start to close, I get to see my now ex-husband for the last time. And on the phone was my cousin telling me that my mom had just passed away. And so at this point of the story, I had already been in business as a workshop facilitator for girls and moms for about 3 years. And I had been scheduled to make an in-studio appearance on a television show that I had waited for, and I had wanted for like a year. So you think waiting for this call was something? Imagine waiting for that TV appearance for a year, and then you get the devastating news. And so, yeah, I found myself at a crossroad, just literally in the middle of the street in downtown Decatur, Georgia, just asking God what he wanted me to do. And so after a brief period of debate with myself, my friends, several of my family members, I went ahead and headed home to settle my mom's affairs and empty her house and pay the bills and handle the funeral arrangements, etc. And then several weeks later, I got a call from her mortgage company telling me that her home could not remain empty, so I would have to move in. I am the eldest and only girl of 3, so I have 2 younger brothers. My baby brother was just hitting 18 at the time, and my middle brother is serving 2 life sentences in a local state prison. So everything fell on my shoulder. And again, after several debates and some very persuasive and convincing words from a few friends about how hard my mom had worked as an entrepreneur, she had saved her money and invested for her lifelong dream of owning a home, I again agreed to pack up my things and move back home to protect my mother's dream. So shortly after that, I got a call while I was on bereavement from that corporate position, and it was the company telling me that they were downsizing. So imagine just all this news like back to back to back, and they let me know that my team, my entire team, had been let go. So even when I came back to work, if I came back to work, I would have no work to come back to. So, but strangely enough, though, I rejoiced. Like, I literally out loud screaming with glee at the thought of no more 9 to 5 or 7 to 7 in my case, because I would get up early and go to the office and stay late, and I got credit, of course, for overtime. But then being in that type of a cubicle environment, it was always that constant fear of the potential pink slip. And so I felt like my day was finally here. And so that moment of rejoicing was for several reasons, and it all led me to where I am today, being right here with you, with the ladies that I get to talk to every day. And then it gave me more free time in my day because I was able to rest and to focus on me. I wrote a book called Secrets of a Socialprenista, and I was also able to concentrate and finally get my business up and running and taking classes, investing in training, and other resources. So it's kind of like it was some things I wanted to go ahead and get going, and I felt like I had the permission to do so. And then I was also excited because deep down inside, this was the moment that I had always wanted. I had always longed for that proverbial permission slip that somehow allowed me to accept that it was okay for me to go out and live my dream of really doing this business thing and really becoming an entrepreneur full-time. So I am happy to say that the journey and the time focused allowed me to get clear about the direction I really wanted to take my business, and it allowed me to be where I am today as an 11-year small business owner and a woman entrepreneur. And just the things that I've seen and heard and experienced and lived out for myself taught me everything that I needed to know in those moments and for years to come. And that's also what qualifies me to be here with you tonight as a certified business coach, as a recipient for an Unsung Hero Award and honors of a ultra role model here in Atlanta in my community. And I recently won a training and development award from my university, which I graduated from in May, for excellent studies and a deep dedication to my profession. So, long story short, or in summary, if I would not have worked corporate and received the permission to transition into entrepreneurship, I wouldn't be on this call with you tonight. So I'm so thankful for that opportunity to be here.
That is so awesome. That's an amazing story. And I really appreciate you being on the call tonight. And I'm sure many of our listeners are very appreciative of it because, there are a lot of people who are contemplating leaving the corporate world because it's so funny. Our stories is, I did not experience death in my transition from corporate America to now working in the kingdom, because I work for God. I don't work for man anymore. Praise God. So this is my ministry. What I do is I open up the different lines and opportunities for people to share what they do. And that's one of the reasons why I actually have this every other Thursday, talk session where people like yourself who are accomplished in doing the things that a lot of people wanting to do can share that information with those who are wanting to do it but don't know how. And so I really, really appreciate you being here, and I can't wait to dig more deep down into the nitty-gritty of things and learn more about you. But you sound very accomplished, and I commend you for taking that leap of faith, because that is scary. When I decided to leave corporate America, I was making great money. I literally walk off a job. They didn't fire me. God told me to walk off this job, and I had to walk off the job. So I can just imagine, being put in a place where you actually have to leave the job. You didn't really have a choice. So I commend you for, rising above that. That's an amazing story. And so I want to go into the next question that I have for you is, what steps did you take to transition from the corporate world to the self-employed world? Because that is important to know the steps to take, because a lot of people leave corporate America, but they don't have a plan.
Exactly.
Or they wanted to leave, but they don't have a plan.
Right. Right. And I say that a lot, and I kind of led into that with the story that I just shared. Like I said, and like you just recapped on, I didn't have a job to go back to, but I did have the free time to sit and educate myself, and really took it as my permission from God, saying, hey, here's the time you need, here's the resources you need, you have this big space, this gap in your life that you can now fill, that void that's been there all along. You have permission to do that. And so in order to transition, I knew it would take training and reading and studying and taking workshops. And I've attended conferences, so many conferences that I can't even count, And so what I did do, though, one of the best conferences I went to, and it was actually not too long ago, they shared a statistic. And someone asked me, well, AJ, why are you so passionate about what you do? And I had to really think about it, this statistic that was shared at this conference. I said, well, I do what I do because this conference told me that 70% of women small business owners make less than $25,000 a year. And I don't know about where you are or where the listeners or the callers are, but according to state guidelines, that's poverty level, especially if you're trying to support a family. So my personal story that gets a little bit deeper into the journey is that I spent my entire childhood and some of my young adulthood in low income, and it doesn't feel good to be broke, especially when you work for yourself and you have the ability to create your own wealth. So like I mentioned, I read, I did research, I invested in myself, and then I realized that poverty is definitely a mindset. And after I shifted my own mindset, just because, you've been through certain things in your past, you don't have to stay there. And so once I shifted my own mindset, I decided to focus on educating and empowering and encouraging entrepreneurs. I get to help them increase their impact, influence, and income through my coaching programs. And you mentioned, women want to start their own businesses. And I say, any day now they're ready to launch. They're thinking about getting ready. Well, while I had that quiet time with God and that moment to just sit with myself and my thoughts and know what I wanted to do in my business, I was blessed to be able to develop a program called Boss of Me. And this is where I teach women small business owners how to build their own businesses, how to build them better, how to build a personal brand, and then optimize those outreach opportunities like this one tonight, where you're surrounded by people who need what you do. And then you use that to make more money in your business. You leverage what you know, and then you do what I call speak up. You go out, you speak. And so I also coach on sales and speaking training for people who want to go from free to fee-based speaking. And then finally, when you're ready to share and when you find yourself still answering those same questions, or in my case, I've learned so much that I know so much in this moment I can't possibly repeat myself every time, or I get the same questions every time, you write a book. So I created a program to help people write a book called Write Now, and it helps those aspiring authors write their first or their next book. Not just write it, but do it in 24 hours or less. because I know that if you have the time and you find the time to share your message and to share what God has given you the ability to create, there's somebody out there waiting for you to walk in your destiny so they can walk in theirs. So all of that said, I transitioned not easily. I know I tell it in a quick story, but it was a long journey. But to look back and see what I've been through that I can now captivate and share with other women who desire to make that same transition from corporate to being their own boss. I do that in the programs The Boss of Me, Right Now, and Speak Up, and, of course, through the best-selling book that you mentioned in my bio, Secrets of a Socialprenista, where I feature the top 8 mistakes that I find women small business owners make that keep them broke, stuck, and struggling in their business. And I give them inspiration for the journey to keep moving forward because, as I mentioned, it's not easy.
And it's true, it is not easy because I'm doing it right now, and it's hard. It's a tough uphill battle because, you know, 1 month you could be making or killing, and then the next month you're not. So, you know, you have to learn how to balance that too. That's something that, you know, women business owners don't understand. And I'm sure that there's not only women on here, you know, there's men as well. You know, but that small business owners don't realize you have to have a balance. You know, if you're making, say you make $5,000 this month, you know, you may not make $5,000 next month. You're striving to make more than $5,000 next month, but it might not happen. So, you know, you have to be careful how you actually use the revenue that you get. And a lot of people don't realize that, you know, that revenue is something you also pour back into your business. You don't go out and buy new shoes or, you know, stuff like that. When you become your own business owner, you know, buying things is basically going to be put on pause for a while, which brings me to this. It's part of part 2 question, so it's in the same thing. Now, I know you said you transitioned from corporate America and you took classes and workshops and you went to conferences and seminars and so on and so forth, and you trained yourself and you read books. For someone who, you know, may have actually lost their job or got fired, they may not have had like a savings account or anything like that with any money coming in. How does a person transition from the corporate world on a shoestring budget to become their own self-employed, you know, person and be successful at it?
Yeah, so to add to what you just mentioned, you know, some months you're doing really well. I could speak personally. There have been months where I've had several people. I'll use my program, Boss of Me, for example. We might have a whole group of people start at one time, and that's an excellent month. But then you get to the holidays, and people are saving for Christmas, and things are happening at home, and emergencies pop up, and not as many people may enroll in Boss of Me. So you have to think, okay, what do I do in the meantime, in between time, so that I can have these steady months, and so the income flows and it's not up and down. It's steady, and then you start to grow and to build on that. And it all starts with a plan, and that's what I do in Boss of Me for 90 days. I have a group of women who are working 9 to 5. They're busy moms. They're in this routine where they get up, they go to work, they get off, they pick up kids, they go home, they cook, and then eventually they go to bed. But some women like you, like me, we have decided, you know what, enough is enough. I'm not satisfied in doing this day-to-day routine like I've been doing it for all these years. I actually want to live my passion. And so they need a plan. They need a place to start so that when they do get stuck, not only do they have something to refer back to because they've been working on a plan for 90 days, but they have an accountability partner who is me. I like to call myself the business bestie, because I don't let you stop. I'm right there. You cry, we wipe tears, and we keep pushing forward because, like you mentioned, it's not easy, and it's not designed to be easy. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody. You got to love it. You got to be passionate about what you do. But the main thing is you have to have a strong foundation to stand on. So that's what I encourage people to do before just launching and taking that leap of faith, is to start with the plan. And not only a plan, but you have to get real with yourself to say, okay, where am I in my life and where am I in my finances? I don't know about you, but the women that I work with, they kind of don't want to talk about money. They kind of get shy, and, you know, it's like, oh, well, I just know I got a lot of bills. You know, I just know I got a lot of bills to pay. I just know that I don't have it today. I just know that I like to shop, and I often do it on credit card. You know, they don't want to have that conversation. But, again, when you're, like, ready to move forward and you're tired of hitting that brick wall at the end of the month, or as one of my clients said, she said, at the end of the month, I have more months than money. And so when you decide, I'm tired of having more months than money, I need it to equal out and then some, like I need it to overflow, you need an idea for what to do next. And you need to know how to have a plan if you're going to launch full-time, if you're going to do it part-time, if you're going to be your own boss on a regular basis and not just, as the government will say, an expensive hobby. You got to prove that you're making money, but you can only make money when you have a plan. So to answer your question, for someone who may not have a lot of money, they can take certain steps to help them fix their finances. That's what I'm calling it. But again, you got to be willing to look at the money, ladies. You got to be willing to sit down, hash out all your bills and your expenses, get rid of some things. Like you mentioned, you know, you may not can go buy those shoes for a minute. You may have to thrift it. You may have to do some consignment shopping, and that's okay. It's ways to work around it.
Shop in your closet.
Shop in your own closet. What do you have in your closet? And so I mentioned the book, Secrets of a Socialprenista, and for those interested in reading the book, you can grab your own personally signed copy over at thebossof.me/books. But in the book, I talk about what I did when I was trying to fully transition before it was actually my time, but I learned a hard lesson. And the lesson I learned was to develop something I call the 50-50 plan. And this is where you take 50% of your paycheck and you invest it back into your business. And so on page 100 of Secrets of a Socialprenista, I dive into how I established a good business investment plan. And then it all goes back to what we've been talking about all along, what you're willing to exchange, what you're willing to sacrifice, and how you want to support your business. And then this is that main step in, quote, fixing your finances, because it starts with you being able to speak of the investments that you've already made and have in place as you elevate next steps for fixing your finances in the form of growing your own business. Or for those who haven't started a business, it helps you to see where to start, again, because you're facing that money. You know, you're talking about, what do I have available to me, what's in my hand, what's already in my closet that I can make work right now. But that's what I do in Boss of Me, again, building that program for accountability and holding women responsible. I tell my clients, I don't hold your hand, but I hold you responsible, because you tell me that you want to increase your impact, your influence, and your income. So I've used my own story, which I love, and my clients love the fact that I have been through this journey, and I'm sharing what worked and what didn't work. And like I said, when you find yourself in a position where you're answering the same questions, it's time to write a book. And that's what I did. I wrote a book about how I fixed my finances and made the transition over from corporate to working full-time as an entrepreneur. But I also sacrificed. I invested thousands of not just dollars, but hours reading and training and studying and taking classes and researching and, like I mentioned, attending workshops and conferences and events. But I did all this to help me start and sustain and now grow my business. And now, again, that's what I teach openly. I share with my clients in the Boss of Me program my lessons that I learned and how to go from struggle, how to go from eating canned foods and going to community banks and eating beanie weenies and bologna sandwiches and, well, I'm vegetarian now, but peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, you know, and I use that for my own personal and professional experience. So, again, for those who want to know more about how to start their own plan to start facing the money, fixing their finances, investing in themselves to take that launch from corporate to entrepreneurship, I invite you to visit thebossof.me/books and get a copy of Secrets of a Socialprenista, and I'll walk you through how I did it and how you can, you know, do what I call put your own little stank on it and make it work for you too.
And that's awesome. And I'm glad that you said that. You know, we talk about the peanut butter and beanie weenies and stuff like that. I'm a vegetarian right now myself, but, you know, one of the things I did when I actually left my job was I just stripped. Like, if I was wearing weave, the weave came out. If I was wearing fake nails, those stopped too. I'm telling you, I stopped everything. I'm sure people are looking at me like, what is going on with her? Look, I have a plan. You know, when you have a plan, you don't care what other people are going to say or think, because you know that you have a goal. And that's what I have. You know, that's what I want women on here and men to understand, is that once you have a goal, you cannot look at what other people are going to think about you. You cannot worry about that, because you're trying to build a future for not only yourself, but you're trying to create generational wealth. That's what that's one of the things that people don't understand, is that, you know, when you become self-employed, you're in control of your destiny. You're in control of your finances. So someone else cannot just get up and say, well, you're fired. You're the one that's
right.
in charge. So if you don't do it, it's not going to happen. And your kids are dependent on you. So if you have kids or you plan on having kids, it's the same thing. Your kids are still dependent on you, even if you don't already have children. So it's in your best interest, in the interest of your children, to make that step to become self-employed, because that's how you create wealth. You will never get rich in America or in this world if you don't actually try to make it on your own. That's where the money is. You can work a regular 9 to 5 and they decide. Go ahead.
Yeah, and to go back on what you said, like I would say in a nutshell, entrepreneurship is the best time when you're building a business. It's the best time to go natural if you have natural hair. It's the best time to be vegetarian. You know, it's the best time to learn what you didn't know to make this work for you. But you hit on a key point. Women with children, men with children, when your back is against the wall and you don't want somebody else having that power, like you mentioned, to fire you, let you go, downsize, and you don't have a job to go back to, you got to think about it. And so with me, I'm single currently. I currently don't have any kids. But what I do know is that when I work with one woman, whether it's through Boss of Me, writing her book, speaking, however I influence a woman, I don't just influence her, but I influence generations, because that's going to impact her family and it's going to impact the clients she serves and so on for generations to come. So it's a great way to look at, oh my gosh, somebody else is depending on me. I got to make this work.
Exactly. Which brings us to, what are the true secrets of wealth? I said one of them, your self-employment.
Right.
One of the true secrets as well. But there are other steps too, and I'm going to let you do that because this is your platform. I don't do finances. This is your thing.
And, I'm so passionate about it because, like I mentioned, I did a lot of training, a lot of reading, a lot of researching. I did a lot of listening to people who have developed wealth over time, everyone from the founder of Kinko's and Pampered Chef and Mary Kay and Estee Lauder and Google. I know so many founder stories. I would just probably rehash their whole life if I got to meet these people in person. I studied what we consider wealth looking like. And then I took a step back because a lot of people look at people like Oprah and like Bill Gates and like Steve Jobs, and we think, oh, well, who am I? I'm just this little old person. I'll never do Apple. I'll never have my own talk show for 25 years. You got to think of it in a different way. So what I did was took it upon myself to redefine wealth and give it a new definition that I like. So I call it not just the true secret to wealth, but the new wealth, the new definition of wealth. And so I go through just a series of what wealth means to me. And these were my own ahas, and I created it to knowledge, because knowledge and power can serve as a form of money when you think about it. So real quick, I'll go through a list. I just wrote them down to let people know ways that they can be wealthy in addition to money, but these lead to money. So these are the wisdom nuggets, and you guys can take it down or re-listen to the show and just put your own little stank on it and add to it. But you can have a wealth of knowledge, and this is where I call myself a book nerd, because even as a child, and I left this out of my story, but as a child I got in trouble in class a lot for talking, but now I get paid to speak. But because I was in trouble from school, my mom would keep me at home. She would keep me in my room, and I mentioned I'm the only girl. So, she kept me really close to her, but she knew she had to entertain me as far as keeping my mind busy, because I always needed something to do, somebody to talk to. If I wasn't talking in class, I was talking to my dolls at home and teaching them. But she kept me with books. And so I'm so grateful for that, because now I call myself a book nerd. I own about 200 books, and I'm sitting here looking at half of them, and then the other half is on my Kindle. But I read books, I write books, and they say great readers become great writers. But when you know a lot, that leads to money. You can start writing books. And then there's a wealth of wisdom. You have your life experiences. So even if you're not a book nerd, and even if you don't collect information as a hobby like I do, you can look at what you've been through. Who knew? Me being homeless and divorced and, my mom passing, who knew that I would get paid to show up on stages around the world, either virtually or in person, and share that story? So I encourage people to look at what they've been through in their life experiences and then add to their own form of wealth and see how that can add to that money form of wealth. And then the third one is about having a wealth of information. We read, We know a lot from the news. We know about industry trends. If you're someone who follows the news, who follows trends, like you have a lot of people who want to start businesses around fashion or what's going on in the economy, about getting your money together, you can use that wealth of information to build on the wisdom of your life experiences to do things like write a book and speak and things like that. And then number 4, a wealth of helpful resources. This is, you're the go-to person. Like I have mentioned probably twice or maybe 3 times now, when people start coming to you and you find yourself answering the same questions over and over, it's time to write a book. It's time to become a resource where people can go either online or in your community to find out what to do next. And you're that wealth of resources. So your resources, your information, your wisdom, your knowledge, this all goes into making money, into becoming wealthy. And then there's the wealth of connections. This is the people who know a lot of people and the people who can introduce you to anybody. There's a lady here in Atlanta. Her name is Karen the Connector. When I say Karen knows everybody, you can't ask anybody anything without them saying, have you met Karen? There's another lady here named Becky. Everybody knows Becky. So to know that you're that person who's well connected, you know a lot of people, you can make those connections. You can do what Karen's doing by starting your own networking events, charging people to show up. So she's not only connecting people, but she's now a go-to resource for who to know in the community. She's sharing what she knows and her wisdom and her knowledge, and she's building on that type of wealth. And I know this seems simple, and this is only half the list so far, but when you think about what you already have within you, you don't have to try to be the next Bill Gates or the next Steve Jobs or the next Oprah or the next First Lady of the United States, President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama. You don't have to try to be those people because you have your own experiences, your own wisdom, your own information, your own knowledge. You don't have to compare yourself to what other people are doing. So that's just half of the list that I've shared. If you want, I can share the rest. But these are just to get the wheel spinning for people thinking outside of wealth just being money. It's about what you already have within you that you can make work right now.
Awesome. And those are really, really great tips. And, you know, it's so crazy because experience, like you said, experience is money. You know, if you're the type of person that, like I said, you know, there's a guy here in our actual community, too, who knows just about everybody. And that's one of the things that he does. He connects people. But, you know, while he's doing that, he's making a living from that as well. So, you know, experiences, resources, if you're a resource person, all those tips that you gave are awesome tips, you know, because they said knowledge is power. You know, I always say knowledge is power, but you have to apply that knowledge too, because there's a lot of people that have knowledge. I mean, I know a guy that is when I tell you that he is like an encyclopedia, but he does not apply that knowledge to what he can do. When I look at him and I hear him speak, you know, I hear cha-ching. Literally. I mean, whenever he talks, I think money when he talks, but he doesn't use it. So, you know, if you're gonna get that knowledge, make sure that you use that knowledge to create the money that you're wanting in your life, because you can't do it. And like you said, if you keep answering the same question, write a book. I wrote 4 books, you know, and I actually taught myself how to actually write and publish my own work. So, you know, if little old me could do it, you know, anybody can do it. And so I want you to tell them again where they can actually find that book, because I need to actually write that down myself. So go ahead and say it one more time so I can go, because I need to actually get that book for myself as well.
Yes. So my latest book is Secrets of a Socialprenista, and you can find that copy and more information on what's inside at www.thebossof.me/books. Again, that's thebossof.me/books with an S on the end.
Okay. And do you have it on Amazon or anything like that? Because a lot of people on here probably are Amazon.
Of course. How can how can I have 150 books on my own Kindle and one of my books is not on there? It's there. It's there. It's digital. It's downloadable. It's also available in PDF and print. If someone wants a physical copy, I can ship that out to you. And we're also working on the audio version. So I'm so excited about that.
I'm excited for you too, because like I said, I'm a publisher as well. So, you know, stuff like that gets me excited. So awesome. So I'm a Kindle reader, so I'm probably going to go to Kindle and download it because everything I have is digital books. I have so many books right now. I mean, and I'm getting ready to start school on the 17th, so I do digital books because I have a lot of paper books that I get for school. And so I'm trying to minimize the amount of books I have in the home. So I pretty much try to use my, I try to use a digital portion to condense my books. So definitely going to have to get that. I'll make sure I send it out to other people that I know so they can actually get it as well, for the people who probably didn't get a chance to, come on tonight, because most of the people that I know are, single moms or moms, and they have, little ones. They're probably trying to get them down and everything. But that's going to move us to our next question, which is balance. Balance. How do you balance being a boss and still maintain a flourishing relationship and business? And when I say relationship, it doesn't have to be between a man and a woman. It could be a relationship with friends, relationship with family, relationship with your children. How do you balance that? How do you do it?
I'm going to take it a step further because, when we hear relationship, we instantly think outside of ourselves. Let's talk about within us. So the number one flourishing relationship I focus on is two-part. First is the relationship I have with God, and that's who I call him. So I can only speak from experience. I don't do universe and source and spirit. I say God. I say Jesus. I spend my time with him in my word, watching him on watching, his workers on TV in the ministry. I go to church. I serve in my church. I listen to gospel music. I'm reading. I'm always developing that relationship, because then that leads into the second part of the relationship, which is twofold, and that's the relationship I have with myself. So to me, that is balance. That's the balance that trickles down and impacts all other relationships, both personal and professional. Because one thing you don't want is to encounter someone who hasn't prayed before they started their day, or they don't have a word in them, so they don't care how they treat you, or they don't know what it's like to trust God, to trust themselves. How can they trust a partner or a friendship or a business relationship? So when I look at that, I like to do what I say when I first started my business. So, of course, I keep talking about my program, The Boss of Me, but the full program name is I Am the Boss of Me. And in that first part, I am refers to God, because I know everything that brought me to this point, everything from the death to the divorce, everything that I shared in the story in the beginning, I had no control over any of that to get me to where I am. I didn't know this is where I would be. So when I look back and see who I really look up to, who I really serve, and who I really answer to, it's I am. So when you look at I am the boss of me, you look at I am, comma, the boss of me, because God is the boss of me. That's how I interpret it, and that's why I apply it to my business, and I'm so passionate about sharing it with other people. But it impacts me as being a boss of myself. It impacts my volunteers, my staff, my employees, friends, family, followers, future clients. But I believe in starting at the top. That's with God, and then working your way all the way down, not the other way around.
Awesome, and that's so true. It's what you said about encountering someone who didn't pray or may not have a relationship with God. If you've ever encountered anybody who didn't pray, because I know I have, or don't have a relationship with God, it could throw your day off if you didn't pray or have a relationship with God, because you end up trying to retaliate instead of trying to seek to love that person or understand what's going on with that person. So that you made a really great point about that. And a lot of people need to understand that too. When you're getting into business, realize that you're not working for yourself, but you're working for God. So he does have to come first, which means that you do have to, make sure you have that time to spend it with God so that he can direct your steps, so that, you're not directing your own steps. Because the truth of the matter is, like Andreka says, is, she wouldn't be where she is if she did not have God. Because, see, a lot of times we think that the thought that comes in our head that connects us with the door that opens that comes from us. But it doesn't. It comes from God. He's the one that does the connection. He's the one that opens the door. He's the one that gives us the dreams and visions to be able to do what it is that we do. And so we have to put him first. How do we do that? Okay, we have 24 hours in a day. We have 24 hours in a day. If we can find time to eat, if we can find time to pick up the phone and call someone to make a business connection, we can find that time for God, which is the first thing in the morning before you even do anything, before you even brush your teeth, before you even think about anything else. The first person that you're wanting to connect with is God. And how do you find that balance? He will teach you on how to do that balance, because what I know I had to do in my life is I had to cut out some things that were not productive. They were just there. So I'm going to go back and put the ball back in your court to finish answering that question.
Yeah, it's a great point, when you deal with people. And again, I usually give a disclosure when I speak. I am not here to convert anyone. I can only shine my light. If you have questions about what it's like to serve God before you start to serve man every day of your life, I'm here to answer them. That's our call as Christians, the Great Commission, to go out and spread the word. At the same time, I realized that everyone didn't come from where I did. I grew up in the church because I had nowhere else to turn. I left home at 16. I was actually kicked out on my 16th birthday. So I had nowhere to go in order. I knew I didn't want to be a troublemaker. I needed a safe haven. So church is all I know. That's who I am to my core. The church that I'm a member of now, I've been there for about 3.5 years now, and they say, AJ, you just ooze Jesus. And that's the biggest compliment you can ever get, when someone sees the light of God in you. So when I talk to people, I understand that I talk to a diverse audience. I talk to people who don't know God. I talk to people who don't believe in God. I talk to people who want to know God. But a lot of people have never considered incorporating God in their business. So, again, my job here is not to convert you. Again, if you have questions, I'm available to answer them. At the same time, I can only teach you what I know, and I can only allow you to be on the journey with me as I experience things for myself. Because as I tell my clients all the time, you can never coach someone or teach someone something that you haven't first gone through yourself. So this is from my own personal experience. And then knowing that you answer to a higher power. Yes, you're a boss. Yes, you're making your own decisions, but you need someone to answer to, and you need someone at the end of the day or even throughout the day to take a woosah moment, and then to take those clients that are getting on your nerves, take them to Jesus. You need him to work it out, because sometimes he shows us, I can handle this better than you can, daughter. Let me handle this. So it's a balance. Like I mentioned, you start at the top and it trickles down to every other aspect of your life, and, of course, it shows up in your business.
Amen. I received that because it's so true. No, a lot of, I don't know if there's probably a mixed group on here, but I know for African Americans, we always have multiple talents. And so, my next question comes back to, how do you, what are a few ways to multiply? Let me put it this way. What are a few ways to multiply money makers into multiple streams of income? Because say, go ahead. Because, I'll give you an example. Okay, I'm going to give you an example. When I first started out to do my own, this self-employment thing, I had multiple things going. I was cooking on Thursdays and Fridays. I was making the Jamaican food, because I'm also Jamaican. I was making Jamaican food and box lunches for lunchtime and delivering them, okay? So I had that stream of income coming in. And then on top of that, I was doing my books and going out and doing speaking engagements and stuff like that. And then on top of that, I had other things going like Mary Kay and stuff like that. Now, for someone who has all these probably different things going on, how can they multiply their money makers into multiple streams of income and not go crazy?
Right, because oh my gosh, because that would completely drive me insane as your coach. When people sign up for Boss With Me, I say, listen, this is the program. We only have 90 days together. I need you to pick one avenue and let's dive in for 90 days and then develop a plan. But at the end of the program, you have a plan that you can apply to any other business, and usually those other businesses fizzle out because you're going to pick one that you're most passionate about. But what I do want to do is finish the list about wealth, because that ties in to how you can make these things into not just developing wealth, but they can multiply in the form of multiple streams of income and increase or multiply your money makers. So we talked about when you know a lot and when you read a lot and have a lot of wisdom and information and then being a helpful resource and having connections, but then you become that go-to person. I know with you having your hand in so many things, people probably would come to you for advice because they value your personal and your professional experience. So when you look at what you've learned from the journey of owning multiple businesses or trying your hand at multiple projects, you now have advice for people who are trying to go down that road to be like, wait a minute, you're doing too much, slow down, hold up, focus on one thing, you know. So you can build from that wealth of advice, and then you can do what I call sharing your know-how. And that's what I do through all of the programs that I have. It's you showing how to make things work with your ideas, with your business, and then you be able to give advice based on that. And when you continue that wealth cycle, you start to not only have support from people, but you get to become their support and their help. You get to, when people have questions, you show up and you help them because you're good at helping others. So if that's you, you can look at all of these things, including encouragement. I do that so much. We recently at my church took a spiritual gifting test. And actually this week we did it. They sent out an email and you had to do one to show, you know, what department you wanted to keep serving in. And one of mine was encouragement. It kept popping up. And if you're one of those people who you always have the advice, you're supporting people, they come to you asking what they should do, you're giving them tips that have worked for you, then you're good at lifting other people up, and that's a way that you can turn it into money, and I'm going to talk about that in just a few minutes. But you could be that wealth of encouragement, and then you can add inspiration like your story to others and showing them how to be better and how you've been through things and how you made it work for you. But at the end of the day, it's about service. Whether you serve in a church, whether you serve in your community, that's what business is as well. So when you wrap up and put all your gifts into everything that we've talked about during this call, then it automatically turns into money when you format it the right way. So you might be that go-to person in your community that can share some spiritual tips or give some advice. But I heard, I don't know if it was Jay-Z, I heard some famous person quote that you don't have to be rich or that you had to be rich to help other people. And I don't agree with that. I believe, as I mentioned, I've gone through so far about 12 different ways to be wealthy. I believe that you don't have to be rich to volunteer, to turn ideas into business, or to do any of the things that I've mentioned earlier. And by the way, wealth and the new definition of wealth is WEALTH, and that stands for Women Entrepreneurs Are Leading the Herd. And what I mean by that, just to recap on all the ways you create wealth, you got your wealth of knowledge, wealth of wisdom, wealth of information, wealth of resources, wealth of connections, wealth of advice, wealth of know-how, wealth of support or help, wealth of encouragement, wealth of inspiration, and then that wealth of spirituality if you're that one in the community. But again, a wealth of service. So when you package all those, you can show up and shine brighter at what you do and being who you really are. And if you're thinking of transitioning from corporate to entrepreneurship, before you take that launch, look at how you can make money off of all of those things and not only build wealth for yourself, but for generations to come. And you can do that by doing things that, if you look back at everything we've done on this interview so far, we've talked about ebooks, we've talked about print books, we've talked about audiobooks. I have a workbook that I offer with the Boss of Me coaching program. You can develop your own coaching program. You can host live events and workshops. You can speak and give talks live and virtually, kind of like we're doing right now, and create partnerships and trainings where you come in as the expert. You facilitate conversations and you charge. You can do partnerships like this where you have calls and you're being interviewed, sharing your knowledge. You can take on one-on-one coaching clients. You can pre-record courses. I do it all the time, and then you sell those courses. But you can start by just asking, well, what do I know, or what are the most frequently asked questions in my industry? And then you give your expert insight. You share your experiences, your stories, and then how you've systemized how you've made things work for you. like we're doing now. So, for example, if we wanted to share this call more than just tonight, it's packaged in a way, I'm sure, because it's recorded, and you can share it out. And it's us showing up as experts in our industry, sharing all this information. But if we were to add those ways that we can multiply, we can add it to an e-book, a print book, an audio book, a workbook, and the list goes on and on. So those are just a few examples that I personally have incorporated in my own business on how to make more money and turn it into multiple streams of income in your life and in your business.
Awesome. I couldn't have said it any better. That is awesome. And don't do what I did with all those crazy, I mean, that was just for a moment. I stopped that. I didn't do I couldn't do it anymore. It was confusing, and it started to trickle over into each thing. So, like you said, make sure when you're doing it, you have a plan and a goal, and you start with one and focus on one because it makes sense to just focus on one thing that you're good at. Find that niche and stick with it because that's your gifting.
Yeah.
Flow in your gifting because God has given us, each and every one of us, a gift. We may not know exactly what that gift is, but if we pray, and like you said before, we're not trying to convert you, but I'm a very spiritual person. I don't go anywhere without Jesus. I don't.
Right.
And when I talk, I have to talk about God because He's done so much in my life. I've opened up so many doors that I cannot not praise Him and give Him the glory for all the things that He's done for me. But operate in your gifting because that's where your financial increase is going to come from, is by operating in what it is that you were gifted with. If you would do this thing without getting paid for it, that is what you need to stick to. Because then it's not a job. It's a passion. It's something that is dear to your heart. It's something that you just love to do. As she said, something about encouraging others. If that's something, if you love to talk, because I'm a talker too, we can stay on this call all night. I'm a talker as well. I love to encourage others. If that's something that you like to do and people are always coming to you for advice, then that tells you something. And if you're not sure what your gifting is, you can actually call up your friends and ask them, hey, what do you think I'm good at? Because 9 times out of 10, they know what you're good at more than you do. They'll tell you, well, you're good at this. And you're like, wow, I didn't even realize. And then when you start to pay attention, you're like, oh, my goodness, I am good at this. And then you start to practice that thing, and you start doing it over and over again until you perfect it. It becomes a part of you. So operate in your gifting. That's my advice for you. Then it brings me to our last question of the night. What does self-esteem, self-confidence, self-worth, toxic relationships have to do with being the boss, going from employee to entrepreneur, fixing my finances to become wealthier, and balancing it all? What does those things have to do with being a boss?
Yeah, so this is juicy because I know this is your area, which brings me to thanking you for getting out of the mentality of I need a million businesses to run, no more Mary Kay, no more. I don't know what all you do in addition to this now, but I can tell you're really, really focused, and I see that you coach and you work with self-confidence and toxic relationships and then the self-worth and self-esteem and effective communication, which is really what I love. And so I said, we can tie this all in together and bring it on home as it relates to entrepreneurship because we're showing women around the world what it looks like to show up walking in your gifts. So everything from women who are inspired to be their own boss, and for those who may not have a lot of money or they're looking to, what we talked about, fix their finances, finally face that money, but you want to be able to balance being a boss and have great relationships, create your own wealth, and then multiply that wealth when you package it. But you also want to know the little things that go into being an entrepreneur and building a business. So really quick, I'll talk about self-worth first. Self-worth is when you link what you do to the value and the results and the outcomes that you provide. So, for example, when you show up and give advice because friends keep asking you, or if you do what you just talked about, when you call your friend and say, hey, what am I good at, they're going to tell you because they see the value. That's going to bring your self-worth up because they're letting you know what results and what outcomes you could potentially provide for people, whether you do it for free or for a fee. And then there is self-esteem and self-confidence. When you find out what you're good at, and you decide, okay, I'm ready to transition from employee to entrepreneur, but the struggle is real. You know, you realize that you need some help. You need people around you to support you. You need people who have been where you are. You need a business bestie. You need a business coach. You need an accountability partner, because you're going to start to question yourself. And this goes into self-esteem and self-confidence, because you start to ask, can I do this? Am I sure? What about the competition? Do I know enough? And I had a client, Dawn. Dawn was like that. And I told Dawn, do not take another class. Do not get another degree. Do not get any more certification. Don't take any more programs other than the one you're in with me right now. Because when you ask, what else do I need to do to go out and walk in my gifting, that's just another form of procrastination. And, I talk about that in the book. I give inspiration for your journey by helping you see the actual value that you bring and what you have to offer, and the difference that it could potentially make in someone else's life. Because as I mentioned, there's someone somewhere in the world waiting on you to walk in your destiny so that they can walk into theirs. So when you sit and you question yourself and you say, oh, like people approach me after talks about it, and they say, AJ, I wish I had your confidence, or I want better, but. A lady emailed me a couple of days ago. She said, you know, I watch you and I watch Steve Harvey, and you guys motivate me. And I said, well, first, thank you for putting me in that same category as Steve. I appreciate that. I'll take some of that check, you know, coming in the mail. But when they question, she says, you know, but I don't have the confidence. I'm not motivated. I want to do better, but I've never seen it done before by somebody who looks like me or can relate to me or has lived my life or been through some tough times too. And so as I mentioned, when you start to question, when you start to doubt your own self, when you start to say, oh, I don't have the confidence, I don't see myself high enough to do it, this is one of the mistakes that I talk about in Secrets of a Socialpreneur. It's actually the first chapter of the book, because it goes into how procrastination leaves you stuck, leaves you broke, and leaves you struggling in your business. So keep that in mind when you're thinking, oh, I'm not ready to launch, I don't know if I can do this, and you start questioning and second-guessing. There are people who are waiting on you. They've already asked you to show up. You just have to decide that you know you're worth it. You see the value that you offer. You're not questioning your gift or your talents. You know they're God-given. And then you start to show up. You show up by saying, okay, now I'm ready to surround myself, again, by people who have been on this journey. They're going to be real and transparent with me, tell me what works, what doesn't work. They're going to show me what they've done, and now I can put my own spin on it and make it work for me. And sometimes one of those things requires sacrifice, and one of the things that you'll be sacrificing is a toxic relationship. Not just, oh, they're bad for me, but you got to look deep within. Some people that you start out with, you're not going to grow with. I've seen examples, I've experienced examples of business partnerships not going or growing with you. You outgrow them. You outgrow your business besties. Even looking at what you're thinking about selling or turning into a business, sometimes you have to shift away from certain business products or programs that aren't working out or giving you the results that you need to grow your business your way. But look for support groups and support systems. And if you don't have those, you need to find where the meeting space is, either online or offline, in your community. I pride myself on having a community for women entrepreneurs. If you guys are interested, the BossOf.me is the perfect place to start to join a community of like-minded women who have taken a look at the fact that they can no longer sit and not do anything with their gift. They know they're worth it. They know what they have to offer is valuable. They're ready to build their wealth. They're ready to do it for generations to come, and they've made the decision that they're ready to move forward. But not only that, they're ready to communicate that, and that's where that effective communication comes in. So when you show up and you start to tell people about what you do, you're going to share your story and your message like I do, and you're going to do something I call messaging magic. And that's when you share your story so good that you can tell what took you years to go through. You can talk about it in 60 seconds or less and keep it moving. You're over it. You're healed from it. You're delivered from it. You're not crying. You're not cussing. You're not calling people out of their names. But you're sharing your story in such a magical way, and it's showing up when you go out and you tell people about what you do. And then when you show up at things like networking events to brand or do some PR, or even on social media or TV, however you show up to market your business, you're going to get really, really creative with that effective communication. And real quick, I'll share a story about effective communication and how I used it recently. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I love to talk. And I do a lot of these types of podcast interviews. And recently I overbooked. I booked a podcast interview on top of a networking event that I drove 2 hours to get to here in Atlanta. And it's not that it was so far away from my home. It was the fact that Atlanta has really bad traffic is why it took me 2 hours in the first place. But when I got there, I realized that the networking event was only 2 hours itself. And I would miss majority of the event. So I went ahead and I did the interview, sat in my car, did the podcast interview. And when I went inside to the networking event, I said, okay, I have a few minutes of this event left. Yes, half of the people have already gone home, but I drove 2 hours to get here. I'm going to make this work for me. So I found one person who was standing by herself, and she didn't look like she was going to, work the room and talk to people. So I just nicely went up to her. I said, hi, my name is AJ. I'm a business coach for women small business owners. Who here tonight have you met that you think I would enjoy connecting with? And when I say that one little statement caused by the end of 30 minutes, everybody who was still there were tapping me on my shoulder, waiting in line to talk to me, because now I was AJ, the person that came in the room that had to be connected with this person, and this person. So every person that I was introduced to, I asked the same question. Who here would enjoy hearing about what I do? Who do you think I would connect with well? And who stood out to you that you think I should network with tonight? So that's how I made networking and effective communication work for me. And I showed up and I shared my story and what I was really, really good at to market my business. But all of that encompassed self-esteem, self-confidence, being in the right place, being in a supportive environment, and knowing the value that I brought to that environment. So that's how all of that goes together in the world of entrepreneurship.
And that's amazing, because Dale Carnegie says, "In action breeds doubt and fear, while action breeds confidence and courage." He said, if you want to conquer fear, you don't sit at home and think about it. You go out and get busy, And so you basically did that. You go out because you have assurance of your abilities, and that's what self-confidence is having assurance of your abilities, which brings it back again. Like I said, we're not trying to convert you. But a lot of times our self-confidence is based on the wrong things. It's based on what we have or what we look like or the knowledge that we have. I'll be honest with you, your knowledge sometimes won't get you in the door. A lot of times, sometimes it's just favor. So you have to have that assurance that that what it is that you have to offer, what you have going for you, somebody's going to want that, because again, God's going to put you in that place to where somebody's going to connect with you. Sometimes it's not even, like I said, what it's that shine, it's that something that's drawn to you. People are drawn to you because they see something in you that they desire. Like you, if you walk in and you would actually ask me that, I would be automatically drawn to you. Like, I would be like, okay, well, what is it about her that's different from whoever I may have listened to throughout the time that I was there? So, it just has to do with how you feel about yourself deep down inside. And a lot of times, people hold on to things that happened to them in the past that actually have messed up their self-confidence and their self-esteem. So that also plays a lot of parts in people being confident, because I know that at one point I was not very confident. Believe it or not, talking to you like I'm talking to you now, I probably wouldn't have done it. I'm a talker, but mostly not with people that I don't know. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't not have walked into a room and talked to somebody that I don't know. I didn't start doing that until I got into a relationship with God, and He started to break things down and change things in me and make me start to see things in a different way. And that's how I started to branch out and got out of my comfort zone, because He pushed me out there once He was done tearing down the things and the baggage that I was carrying, because I was carrying a lot of baggage. My biggest thing was worrying about what other people thought. Never worrying about what I was thinking or what God was thinking about me.
And when you know, like I said, you know that confidence is in you, you get to show up. So I'm so glad that he broke those walls and you get to show up and shine and be fabulous in what you do and help people around the world by giving them an example of what they can do and what's possible as well.
And I'm so proud of you. I mean, I'm listening to you and I'm just like, oh my God. And, you know, I have to connect with you on a different level after this call that we're doing. And we're going to go ahead and wrap up in a little bit. But I wanted to open up the line to have anybody, if they have any questions that they wanted to ask you, that they can actually do that, because you shared a wealth of information. And you don't know how much you've blessed me tonight. I don't know if you blessed anyone on the phone. I'm hoping that you did, because you know, you've opened my eyes with a lot of things that I hadn't thought about, because we don't know everything. You know, we don't know everything. We can do our own reading and our own thing, but there's always someone else that knows something that we don't know. We can add on to what we already know. And so you've actually shared some great things with me that I want to get with you about after the call. You know,
yeah,
but
let's make it happen.
I'm going to open up the Q&A mode to let anyone ask you some questions. So for you to be able to ask questions, you need to hit *6. I will unmute you so you can actually ask Andreka the questions that you may need to ask her. And if you don't feel comfortable asking any questions, there's always, you know, being able to go to www.bossofme.com and, you know, connecting with her there. And she's also on Facebook as well. She's one of my Facebook friends. So if you're my Facebook friend, you can find her under my actual Facebook friends, you know, information. So here we go. We're going to open up the call for you guys to be able to ask questions. *6, y'all. Now, I know you guys have questions. I mean, don't tell me that she shared all those fabulous information where all of a sudden we're shy. Do we have anyone on the line who wants to become their own boss and have more questions on how to do that? Okay, we have caller 7737. Let me open you up for Q&A. Okay, we can hear you, so go ahead and actually ask. Hello? Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Yes, ma'am. This is Carolyn Martinez. How are you, Andrea?
Hey, Carolyn. How are you?
I'm good. I got to actually just get right in just as soon as y'all had started earlier. I have a question about charging for speaking engagements. Is there a standard somewhere that you go by in making presentations and speeches, or is it just a matter of hourly fees, or is it just a matter of how much time goes into preparations for it?
That's a good question.
Hey, Carolyn, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, it is a great question, and it depends on, as we mentioned at the top of the call, and thank you for being on it the whole time. You are a soldier, so I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so at the top of the call, you know, we talked about finances, and the clients that I work with, you know, that's a tough topic, but I do this thing called a financial forecast, or looking at your financial future, and I do this with clients, and let me know if you need this as a resource. I have it. It's a downloadable PDF, but you go through all of your expenses, and you go through what you know it'll take you to run your business, and you use that as your starting point for your pricing for anything that you do, especially speaking. And then you decide on if the events that you're going to venture out to get, can they afford to start at where you know your bottom line is, like you can't go past a certain amount. So if you need $2,500 a month, can that one event, or gig as they call it in the speaking industry, can that pay for your expenses, because there's so much that goes into it. So yes, I wouldn't look at it as hourly. If you looked at it as hourly, it would drive you crazy because of all of the prep time of not only getting, even doing this call tonight, I mean, having to sit and think about what I wanted to say and writing out notes. But if I had to get up and go somewhere and travel on a plane and get a hotel, it's so much that goes into it. And I wrote a book called #SpeakUp, and you can find it on Amazon. It's only about $3.99. As a matter of fact, if you want a copy, I can email it to you. If you email me, I'm aj@thebossof.me. That's aj@thebossof.me. Email me. I'll send you a copy of that book, and it goes through 22 top ways to go from being a free speaker to a fee-based speaker. And I talk about everything that it takes to prepare for a speech and where to start, how to charge, who to show up for, and finding out who needs to hear what you have to say. And then if you still have questions after that, then we can talk about what you should be doing in order to hit those numbers that you know you need to make with every speech. Once you know that this is your set price and you've packaged yourself as a professional speaker, you won't start to question those prices, and you won't let people negotiate with you about what to charge when you come speak.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Did that help?
May I ask one more question?
Oh, yes.
Okay. I understand marketing. And I know that there's lots of groups in my area that do marketing meetings. And I'm wondering if your background is something kind of specialized that you would want to reach out to a particular group, how would you go about pinning down those groups?
Mm-hmm.
I say pinning down. How would you go about finding those specialty groups?
So you mean finding groups,
as far as
finding groups that
goes.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand you. You want to speak to groups that you specialize in that certain industry in your local community, right?
Yes.
So this is something that I talk about in the book, and it goes with speaking. Not just marketing. I mean, you can market to anybody, but when you specialize, you can do breakout sessions and workshops and things like that. And you can start out by volunteering to do them for free. But, I mean, you start where all research starts, at Google University. You go to, okay, Google, and you ask, where's the local meetup? You can go to meetup.com. You can look in different groups. I love LinkedIn groups because these are people who come together and they're business-minded, and then you can find there's a speakers association or coaches associations, and depending on what field you're in, you can target those groups, and then you can narrow it down to, okay, where's my local chapter? For example, I have been to several Toastmasters events and speaking events here in Georgia, but it just depends on where do you want to specialize and where do you want to show up. So real quick, what's your speaking topic, or where are you thinking about marketing or showing up for groups in your area?
My speaking topic is mostly about the handicapped population that we have. And because I've got a direct relationship with someone that is autistic, actually two people that are autistic that have very different, they express that very differently. And I've been a mom for 35 years, so I do think I have a bit of expertise in this topic. And I would like to reach out to the younger children in my community that are autistic, elementary school age, and reach out to those parents as I did in my book, and present them the message that, yes, your child has autism. This is not the end of the world. You know what I mean? God still has a plan for your life. And
so it sounds like what you would do, I think just for what you said, you have a book, you know who you want to target. You would go to Google and put in support groups for parents. Support groups for parents with autism. I know here in my community they have a support group at this one church that meets for everything. Children of divorced families. Of course, they have the Girl Scouts. They have people who have been divorced. They have people who are dealing with certain addictions. So you can always find a support group. But just go to Google and put in autism and put in support group and put in your city and see where they meet. And then see who the contact person is for that group and let them know you have a story, you have a book, you have experience, and you would love to just add some value to their group, and it builds on from there.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. I talk about all of this in Speak Up the book, so just email me, aj@thebossof.me, and I'll send you a copy. And then if you have any other questions, I'm available for that too. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, great. Thank you so much.
And Carolyn, if you forget the email address, I'm also going to be sending out things with her information at the end of the call.
Okay, great.
So I'll make sure that you get her information so you can still connect with her, okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Do you have any other questions for her?
No, I believe that's all. It's enough for now, anyway.
Do you have any other caller on the line who would like to ask her, a question? Like I said, don't be shy. This is your time to shine. This is your time to ask the question for free.
For free, right? And I want to.
You don't want to start asking questions when it's no longer free.
Yeah, because we do have sessions, and that's for people who need just quick advice. I am so happy to share the resource, Speak Up, the book, because like I mentioned, it's only about $3.99 on Amazon. I can give you that for free if you just email me. Again, it's aj@thebossof.me. And thank you for sharing that information. And that's for anybody who needs that resource, particular to speaking in your industry. And then I'm available for questions even after this call via email. And if you need some one-on-one time with me, we can discuss that and make that happen as well.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, it looks like there's no other person in Q&A. So what I'm going to do is the callers that I do have online, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that you guys get the information via email when I send out our email thanking you guys for listening in. I do want you, Ms. Austin, to share some more resources of where they can actually connect with you. So, and also to close out, to give any last encouragement for anyone on the line who again might be wanting to know the things that Ms. Martinez asked, as well as how to become their own boss, how to multiply their income, how to get their money to work for them, or how to fix their income. So I'm going to actually open up the actual line to you to do that closing.
Thank you, and I want to thank you again for the opportunity to be here. It's very rare that I get to talk to people live. As far as the callers who have questions, it's usually just me teaching, so that was a really cool feature. So thank you for that, because I get to know what's on the hearts and the minds of the women who I serve, and then what to add to the resources I have. TheBossOf.me is my website. That's TheBossOf.me. It's simple, thebossof.me. And then you can find out all the information about the Boss of Me 90-Day Women Coaching Program. It's virtual, it's digital downloads, it's audio. I told you guys I love to talk. So it's me walking you through a 90-day journey of how I built my business to several figures of success within the last few years. And then I show the success, I show the struggles, I share my stories, and then I help you do the same thing. The Speak Up program is on there as well for those who are looking to go from free to fee-based speaker. You're going to start with reading the book, as Carolyn is going to do, and then you're going to develop your own plan for speaking. And then right now, if you're ready to write a book, I have a program called Right Now, and that means get to writing right now, and you can do it all in 24 hours or less. Yes, you can write a book in 24 hours or less. Believe me, I have a bestseller who just graduated the program, Joy. Hey, Joy, congratulations on your success, too. So you can find out about those programs and other trainings I have. It's thebossof.me. That's my website. And then I'm on, and this is a neat little trick I use, and this just helps me to remember all the social media channels I'm on. I use the acronym UPLIFT, and it's UPLIFT. And let me tell you why. I say uplift because I uplift everywhere I go. I always share encouragement, empowerment, education, and I get to engage with entrepreneurs. So everywhere I go. So U is for YouTube, and I know you spell YouTube with a Y. P is for Periscope. L is for LinkedIn. I is for Instagram. F is for Facebook, and T is for Twitter. So I uplift on all of those channels. I'm at Socialprenista. It's SOCIALPRENISTA. But if you go to thebossof.me and just click the icon at the bottom of the page, you can connect with me on all of my Uplift channels and get more information on how to connect. And then for those of you who want the free resource that I'm offering, you can email me. I'm aj@thebossof.me. And so before we go, I just want to say this, and I kind of have hinted around it throughout the call. But for those of you who don't know when they're going to start, or who are thinking of launching, or you don't know what to do next, or you don't have an idea, and so you're procrastinating, you're stalling, and you're waiting for someday, or you feel like you don't have the time, or you don't have a lot of time, just know that there is someone somewhere waiting on you to walk in your destiny so that they can walk in theirs. Because it's when you let your own light shine that you give others permission to do the same. There's only so much time that we're allowed to exist on this earth, and because someday is not a day on the calendar, it may never get here. So stop putting things off for later and move ahead anyway. The question to ask is not, what if I fail, but it's, what if I succeed? So I encourage you to get the book, Secrets of a Socialprenista. Email me if you want a copy of the book, Speak Up. Look at the different programs I have with Boss and Me, Speak Up, and Right Now, and let me know how I can serve you. We would also love to have you just on the email list and a part of the community of like-minded women who need support to go to their next level, because you don't want to see yourself sitting in this same position this time 365 days from today. So again, thebossof.me is the best way to start to connect with me on your journey to hitting your next level of business success. So thank you again for this opportunity to share who I am and what I do and what I'm so passionate about tonight.
And thank you so much for being on here. 2 times best-selling author and award-winning business coach, Andreka Austin. You are amazing. And to our listeners, thank you for listening in on Love, Dating, and Finances Relationship Roundtable Talk session. I am your host, Andrea Porter, and thank you so much for listening. And you guys have a good night. God bless you. And again, go to www.thebossofme.com and connect with Miss Austin. Thank you all. Good night.
Good night.